All right. You got to memorize some. All right. And these are some of the words we're working with. Monomial, the degree of a monomial. Polynomial, the degree of polynomial. Standard form, leading coefficient, which we just talked about a little bit. Quadratic, cubic, binomial, trinomial. We'll talk about that in a second. All right. But a monomial, that's just one term. Okay. So if I say to you the number 2, that's a monomial. If I say 2xy to the negative 3, well, let's do positive 3, 3z to the 5th, okay, that's still a monomial. It doesn't change to something else until I put an operation, plus or minus, okay? Then if I said 2xy to the 3rd, z to the 5th plus 5, well, that's no longer a monomial. That's no longer one term. That's two terms, okay? But when we're talking about the degree of a monomial, okay? Again, let's take this 5 away from this. All right? And let's talk about the degree, okay? So if I set each one of these, if I talk about each one of these separately, okay? And I only really care about, when I'm looking for the degree of a monomial, I only care about the variables, okay? So I'm going to add the exponents together. What is the exponent to this x right here? 1. So I have 1 plus 3 plus 5. So the degree for this entire monomial is going to be 9. Okay? That's the degree for the monomial. So when we come over here and look, so okay, what's the degree for each one of these monomials? For the first one, if I'm just looking at the variables, I have a 4 and a 3, which gives me a degree of 7. What's the degree for this one? 2. Now, if you do not have a variable with it, your degree is 0. Because if I say 3, well, is this number 3 right here, is this the same thing as this right here? Is 3 the same thing as 3 times x to the 0 power? Yeah, it absolutely is. Because x to the 0 power is 1. So therefore, it's kind of like saying you have a variable here with a 0 exponent. Okay? But we'll just say that if we don't have any variables to it, the degree is 0. All right? What's the degree for this one? 3. What's the degree for this one? 1. And the degree for this one? 3. Okay, good. All right, so that's how we find the degree of each term, of each monomial. That'll be important for us. Because then we're going to want to find a polynomial. This is kind of a generic term, but it's basically a monomial or a bunch of different terms. All right, we're going to have more names for these in a second. But if I want to find the degree of a polynomial, I'm going to find the degree of each term or each monomial in the polynomial. So for instance, if I look at this one right here, this has a degree of what? 7. This has a degree of 3. I'm going with the larger number, so the degree of that polynomial is 7. Okay? We want to go with the highest degree. What's the degree for this right here? 3. Very good. The degree for this? 4. The degree for this? 0. Okay, there's no variable attached to that 5. So the larger number here is 4. That's the degree of the polynomial. Okay? What's the degree for this one? 1. What's the degree for this one? Hang on. Everybody think about it for a second. And then EJ, what's the degree for this one right here? What's the degree for this term right here? Okay? So this is 5. What's the degree for this one? This one? And this one? Huh? Huh? 0. No variable. Okay? The larger number, 5, that's the degree of the monomial. Or the polynomial, sorry. Okay. So standard form. Again, once you've identified the degree of the polynomial, then we're going to reorder them from the largest degree to the smallest degree. So if I look at this one, from largest to smallest, largest on the left side. So if I look at this right here, the degree for this is 1, the degree for this is 5, the degree for this is 2, and the degree for this is 9, or 0, sorry. So when I rewrite this, the term that has the largest degree is negative 7x to the 5th. Don't forget to take the sign with the number. Okay? The next largest is 4x squared. Then we have 6x and then plus 9. So now we have this in standard form. Okay? When we're looking for the leading coefficient, that's the number that is out in front after you've put it in standard form. So the leading coefficient for this is negative 7. All right, so again, I have a degree of 2, I have a degree of 6, and I have a degree of 1. So I'll rewrite it y to the 6th plus y to the 2nd minus 3y. What is my leading coefficient for this? What's the number out in front after it is in standard form? 1. So that's my leading coefficient. After it's in standard form, what's the number out in front? We'll do one more. Okay? What goes first? Cece, what goes first? I'll help you. 0, 2, 5, 3. Plus 9x to the 3rd. Now what? Okay, minus 4x squared. And then plus 16. What's my leading coefficient for this? Huh? What's this number right here? 1. My leading coefficient is 1. Okay? Remember what a coefficient is. If I have a number in front of a variable, that number out in front is the coefficient. Okay? All right. So this is what you have to remember. Okay? After you put a polynomial in standard form, after you identify what the degree of that polynomial is. Then you have to name it by the degree and by the number of terms. Okay? So, if we have a degree of 0 constant, 1 linear, 2 quadratic, 3 cubic, 4 quartic. This is where it gets a little bit confusing. 2 and 4. Quadratic, quartic. Think quarters. 4 quarters and $1. Okay? But quartic, quintic, and then if it's 6 or more, we just call it 6th degree, 7th degree, 8th degree, 9th degree, whatever it is. 1 term is monomial, 2 terms is binomial, 3 terms is trinomial, and 4 or more, we just call it polynomial. Okay? Now, you have to remember this. Okay? But this is how we apply it. So if I classify this by the degree and number of terms, what is the degree of this entire polynomial right here? I heard it. Who said it? 3. The degree of because again, the degree of this term right here is 3. The degree of this term right here is 1. So the degree of this is 3. That means going back to this, 3 is cubic. So this is cubic. How many terms do I have? 2. So if I look over here, I see that I have 2 terms, binomial. So therefore, this is a cubic binomial. Okay? What's the degree of this polynomial right here? 6. Again, go back to this chart right here. I only have a name up to 5. 6 or more, well, we're just going to call this a 6th degree. I have 4 terms. I only have a name for up to 3 terms. 4 or more, we're just going to call this a polynomial. Okay? What? Huh? Yep. What is the degree of this polynomial? And what do we call a degree of 3? Cubic. How many terms do we have? 4. And what do we call it if it has 4 terms? Polynomial. It sounds just like it's written. Polynomial. All right. Haley, what's the degree of this right here? Well, what's the degree of the number? No. Just the number by itself. What do we call it? What has a 0? And what do we call a 0 degree? Constant. Okay? So this is the constant. Now, understand, a constant will always be a constant. It doesn't matter if I add another constant and make it a binomial, because it still gives me back a constant. Okay? So we don't say constant monomial or constant binomial. It's just a constant. Okay? All right, and the last one. Anybody got an idea? 8th degree what? Good. 8th degree trinomial. Okay. Any questions on this?